and the incredibly positive impact you've had on the film industry for deaf people all over the world. So, why did you feel now was the time to make a documentary about your father, and why that medium rather than a book or an interview?
All my life growing up, I've shared this story with so many friends who were deaf, and we all had our own various journeys. And I realized that many parents out there weren't really involved in their deaf children's lives, unfortunately, and through the years, looking back, I began to realize that my father was very involved in my life, even though I happened to be deaf. You know, I was pretty innocent growing up, and later on I realized what my father did and how included he was to make sure I got the best education, to make sure I was involved in sports, and really he put such an effort into what was best for him, his deaf child, without cochlear implants, without sound. My father was willing to learn sign language. And when I was a child growing up, my dad learned sign. And so today, looking back, you know, I'm old, I'm 55.3 years old now. And I'm now comparing myself to my parents from 30, 40 years ago, right? And so about 95% of hearing parents are not involved in their deaf children's lives. They try and fix them to make them hearing, but my dad did quite the opposite. And I realized that when my father was in his car accident, he was paralyzed, he could no longer sign, but he didn't let that stop him. So looking at myself, I was thinking, oh, being deaf isn't a big deal. The problem wasn't me, the problem was the outside world and how they perceived us as deaf people. And so it's simple to say, I'm not broken, just to put it simple.
And to my father, in your graduation speech, you talk about wanting to be a success in the film industry. Entering into the acting industry is hard enough as a hearing person. On the toughest of days, how did you find the motivation to keep going on your acting journey?
It's an interesting question. Quite early on, I was very excited, even when I was 8 years old, to become involved in the film industry. And through the years, I realized there was a lot of speech, a lot of audio, a lot of sound and music, and they had to rely on that for the business side to sell tickets. But how was I going to participate in all that? And so it taught me to change my career track a little bit. For example, I was very involved as an actor on the theater stage, and I found opportunities there through the years. And I started to build my career. It didn't matter if it was a small or large theater stage, or a very small role in a TV show, or a larger reoccurring role in a TV show. The more that I worked, the more I was involved, the more people recognized me and I began to build my reputation. So the director of CODA happened to see me perform on the theater stage twice. And that led me to being auditioned and cast for that role. And so that's one of the benefits for me as an actor. You know, you have to really think of your audience, and as a theater actor, you have a different audience night after night. You don't know if a director, a producer, or writer happens to be in the crowd. And you never know that there might be a prominent writer or a prominent director in your show. There's just a new audience every night, and you just keep on acting, keep on working hard and showing your work, and that's what I did through the years.
In the documentary, you speak about your feelings when you received news of your father's accident. How is it revisiting this moment for the documentary?
My father's friends tended to be warm and laugh and embrace me, and I'd see them have that type of behavior, right? And that day when I opened the door, I thought it would be the same old, and expected to see them smile, but they didn't smile. They had this cold expression on their face. They just had this vibe about them, even without words. It was a pretty awkward moment. And the energy shifted in that moment. And I didn't understand until my hearing brother told me what had happened. And then suddenly I understood, and I understood why, you know, they didn't know how to approach me. They didn't know how to let me know what had happened to my dad. And it was really an interesting moment. I didn't really figure it out until And then when I found out, and looking back, I thought, oh, okay, and I connected the dots and realized my father was in pretty great shape.
How has your father's impact on you affected your own role as a father?
So my father really taught me how to become a good dad and become a good example to my daughter. And my daughter's hearing, she's a coda. And so really it's a different journey from my deaf journey and my deaf perspective. But we share so much with each other. We come from two cultures and two languages, and she taught me, and I understood more of the world through her eyes, and vice versa. And so it was wonderful to be able to share so much with my daughter as she was growing up.
Your father said, in response to you asking why you were deaf, that God has a plan, God has a reason. What from your life have you learned the reason is? Because you have impacted so many people in such a positive way, myself included, because I built tonight around your greatness. Thank you. So what from your life have you learned the reason is?
I often wonder quite a bit about that and ask that question, why am I deaf? Some people say that if you have reincarnation and you go through various experiences through this journey of reincarnation, and maybe being deaf checks off a list, and maybe I was a member of various religions in the past, but for me, I think the reason why I'm deaf, when my dad told me, hey, I don't have a reason for you, there's no answer, we don't know the reason, and we'll see. And through the years, and everything I went through in my journey, and even sitting here today in this moment, facing this audience, I do look back. And I see all the decisions and everything that led me to being here today. I think this was God's plan, to just share this inspiring story with you all and the people sitting here right now. I think it's just to spread a positive message. And I don't have any control over it, but it just happened to lead me to where I am now.
Well, many congratulations. Everything you achieved is just unbelievable, man. In the documentary, you put the Oscar in a seatbelt. What does winning it truly symbolize to you, beyond being Best Supporting Actor?
When I was growing up, I always watched the Oscars religiously every single year, and I wondered what it would be like to win that award. I wondered what it would feel like. And I remember seeing a fake plastic Oscar in the supermarket when I was a kid, and I said, hey, this doesn't feel real. And I went through my journey, and it actually happened. First I was an Oscar nominee, and then the first time I held it in my hands, the first thing I noticed was its weight. Imagine the weight of a newborn baby. It's about the same weight as the Oscar. And I never thought it would happen to me. Imagine all the people in the world, the billions of people in the world, this happening to me, Troy Kotzer, but this actually came true and it actually happened to me. And I actually won an Oscar. And I was able to put it on my shelf at home with several other awards. It was truly amazing. I can't really describe the feeling. It's really, dreams, amazingly enough, can come true. And every individual has their own experience, and you are the ones who know yourselves, you know your souls, you know what you believe in. No one else can take that away from you. No one could take that away from me in my journey, in my experiences of doing what I love. I was the only one who knew, and it was my soul, period.
When you were working for the advocacy company, was there ever a moment you thought the dream was over?
Oh, absolutely. I started to change in a negative way. I started to slowly give up. And then the phone rang. And I was like, okay, let's go. And at that moment, it was really hard to support my family in that particular moment. And we needed 2 incomes to make sure we were doing what was best for our daughter. And show business is so fickle. It's really risky, it's unpredictable. And I decided to make a change for the better. I thought I was making the best decision to make sure my family was economically stable and all right. And then something out there in the universe, maybe God, he dropped this gift from the sky and I caught it. And right when I was in the office working in that cubicle, and then the cubicle collapsed. And I was free to be creative and be an artist again.
When you got the role in Coda, did you ever envisage it would lead not only to an Oscar nomination, but also an Oscar win? And is this something you believed you would one day achieve?
Oh no, because there's too many people out there in the world. It's so competitive. It's like, imagine becoming president of the United States, right? There's one person out of the millions of people all over the United States. That's how I felt about the Oscar. And I never thought it would be possible, that it could happen to me. But it was incredible. And so I felt like it was a new step for me, and I was in a new world, and just a complete shift, a new universe for me. And you know, telling our stories from marginalized and diverse communities is important, just like what you said about your festival here. Recognizing the blind and the deaf and diverse and marginalized communities is so important. It's important for us to tell our story. And you know, you lost your virginity hosting your first film festival, so congratulations.
Thank you very much, that's very sweet of you. How has winning the Best Supporting Actor Oscar changed your life? How has winning the Best Supporting Actor Oscar changed your life?
I received so many phone calls and so many offers of new roles. There's one example. There were 7 films that I was offered to play a head coach. 7 offers. And I said, I can't be a coach 7 times. You know, and so I had to narrow these down into maybe the 2 or 3 best films. And it was a lot of tough decisions that had to be made. But I feel like the tables were finally turned, because before I was begging for an audition, and now the tables were turned and they were all trying to get me now. And I said, hold on a second, hold on. It was really amazing. It was a power difference for sure.
Could you tell us a little bit about what the film industry was like for you as a deaf person when you entered it, and how it has changed since you started acting?
I've seen Hollywood slowly begin to change and make baby steps forward. And when a film like Coda came out, it really was a huge step forward. And I'm really grateful to Apple TV Plus. And I think they were quite intelligent to buy that film, and we were able to, that message really reached the entire world, even the White House. And President Biden invited me and the rest of the cast of Coda to visit the White House. And I met the president because he loved our movie Coda. And I never thought that would happen either. And it was just amazing how many people our film truly reached, and it really made them feel like it shifted their perspectives. And I'm seeing Hollywood begin to open some doors for several opportunities for some deaf roles in film and TV that I'm not even in. And so it's a positive step forward for sure.
When we were out on the canal the other day, you were telling us about your influence on the industry and then the transition you want to make. So I want to say, What do you think the film industry should be doing to enhance the presence of deaf and blind people behind and in front of the camera? And what has your role been in making positive changes?
Interesting question. How can I improve Hollywood? I tend not to consider audio and sound because I'm deaf, so I'm not considering audio and sound, but there's a huge amount of audience members who are hearing, and we need to think about audio, sound, and music too for ticket sales. But how can we include subtitles, include deaf audience members? A lot of people think, hey, we don't need subtitles or captioning, it's only for the deaf, but it isn't. It's for people who have lost their hearing later in life, or people who learn sign language a bit late or speak English as a second language, or some people have struggled listening to dialogue, and you have a choice with open captioning or subtitles. And CODA really pulled in a large audience that was quite diverse. It wasn't just for deaf people, it wasn't just for hearing people, it was for the hard of hearing, the deaf, and folks with late hearing loss, and folks who speak English as a second language. And when you go into a bar, it's so noisy, right? And you look at a TV, and when the TV has captioning, you can understand what's going on. Even when all you hearing people are struggling to talk with one another, you can look at the captions, right? And there's so many benefits of having open captions or subtitles.
Last but not least, why do you think festivals of inclusivity, like the Little Venice Film Festival, are so important?
It's important because I think it's about time. I want to learn about blind perspectives, blind culture, their experiences and their journey that I'm not familiar with. And I'm sure blind folks are curious about learning about deaf culture. And really for everyone, including you, and including everyone in the outside world who want to learn about us blind and us deaf people and our experiences. So I think it's a really big step forward for you here at the Little Venice Film Festival, and it's really my honor to be here. And I love the title, Little Venice, because really it's a big deal.
Troy, thank you so much for coming here. Deanne, Justin, Anna, thank you so much for just supporting us and being here at our inaugural festival. Ladies and gentlemen, Troy Costa, give him a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Guys, we're going to take a break now, and after the
I'll
break,
see you around.
we'll watch Sound of Metal, Riz Ahmed's Sound of Metal. So it's 2 hours long, so we'll just take